What is the truth about Rasputin? And who is Rasputin?
Well,
for those who don't know.
Rasputin was a Russian starets.
A what?
A starets. It means holy man. He wasn't actually a monk. He was
okay.
a starets. And staretses would go from monastery to monastery, hanging out and all this. And some of them were miraculous, supposedly, and could heal the sick, all that kind of thing. Foretell the future, pay their bills, all that. Now, Rasputin got quite the reputation for being to do healings and this and that. And he was eventually brought up, taken up by noble circles in St. Petersburg. You got to remember the Russian nobility at that time were extremely refined. And so this barbaric backcountryman was sort of a thrill.
Yeah.
He supposedly seduced a number of society ladies. And he said, well, you know, if you want to be forgiven, you have to sin first. Well, it's true. There can be no forgiveness without sin.
Wow.
Well, it's no worse than Martin Luther, you know. Sin and sin boldly, but believe more boldly still. Anyway, well, we're celebrating the anniversary of Martin Luther this year, so I figured that in union with the Pope I would mention that. Anyway, so Rasputin became very popular. Now, at the time, Tsar Nicholas II and his wife, the Tsarina Alexandra, had a son, the Tsarevich Alexei. And Alexei was a hemophiliac. That is to say, he was like a constant Coumadin patient. If he bled, it was very hard to stop bleeding.
Yeah.
And this was a hereditary problem in the descendants of Queen Victoria. They didn't all have it, but a number of them did.
Okay.
And the Tsar, being a descendant of Queen Victoria, his grandson, I think, Alexei picked it up. And when he fell, as you know, boys will, he'd bleed and bleed and bleed. And so he was in constant danger of death. So the Tsarina was a very pious woman. She had been raised Lutheran, became Orthodox, and is often the case with converts of any faith, really just jumped into it. So she was ultra-Orthodox and heard about this fellow who could supposedly heal the sick. And when the Tsarevich was having one of his episodes, he went to work on him and cured him.
Wow.
So, and this happened several times. So as far as the Tsarina was concerned, Rasputin could do no wrong. You know, anybody who could take care of her boy was fine. And this, of course, gave him entree into every circle in St. Petersburg. Mm-hmm. The war breaks out. The Tsar, after a couple of years, decides he's going to go to the front and command himself, which he does, leaving the Tsarina in charge of things in St. Petersburg, while Rasputin is there as a right-hand man. And there were all sorts of nasty and untrue rumors about his being the lover of the Tsarina. And these were spread by communists and other people who were trying to discredit the dynasty. And later commemorated by ABBA.
Oh, the band?
Yes, in their Rah Rah Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine, Rah Rah Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen.
They're Swedish, though.
So that makes them complete authorities on Russian history. Okay? You seem confused. Okay. It's just like they did Mexican history in Fernando.
Okay, we're getting sidetracked.
No, I'm just mentioning.
Okay.
I've never heard a single song by ABBA about Swedish history, though. Which is a good point. You should bring it up with them. Anyway, so there was a lot in Swedish history they could have sung about, like Gustavus III's assassination. But anyway, I digress. So, thing is that he made a prediction that he knew that he was going to, because he was acquiring enemies all over the place. So he made the prediction that if he were killed by a peasant, the war would end soon, and the dynasty would last at least another century or a millennium or something. But if he were killed by noblemen, it wouldn't last more than a couple of years. Well, they were killed by noblemen. The Grand Duke Dmitri, Prince Felix Yusupov, was a conspiracy of nobles of the court who did not approve of his influence. And they killed him. but it was hard.
Yeah, they had to do a lot to kill him.
Oh, they poisoned him, they shot him, they drowned him, they did everything. He wouldn't die, but they finally got him. He was like a zombie, you know, he kept coming back. But they, the walking starets. But they got him finally. He did die. They were overthrown in due course in 1917, 100 years ago. The imperial family of Russia were overthrown.
So, I mean, is Rasputin? I mean, I've heard some people think of him as a holy guy, but I think the majority think that this dude is evil.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was like Benny Hinn, you know,
So he didn't have supernatural powers.
preternatural powers.
Preternatural,
possibly.
sorry.
Very, very possibly. I mean, these things are wider spread than we would think, and possession of them doesn't necessarily mean you're good or bad.
Really?
Well, a lot of people have premonitory dreams.
Well, he had more than, you know, it was more than prophecy. I mean, being hard to kill, that's pretty impressive.
It is impressive, but he was a big man. He was a real bear of a man, literally. I mean, he wasn't Danny DeVito. He was a big guy, big strapping Russian. You know, pushing 7 feet. He was very tall, very muscular, very powerful. But who knows? Maybe he had the touch of the devil about him. I don't know.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
You're a historian, though.
I know, but I still wasn't there. And even historians, you know, differ on points. What I find very often, especially if I haven't studied it, something thoroughly, and in truth, despite what I've told you, I am not an expert on Rasputin by any means. If I can't decide between two differing schools of thought, I don't.
Okay.
I just throw them out there and let the buyer beware.